Assalamu alaikum. After what Uncle Ismail said, it becomes even very difficult because now we'll be saying words that may be reflected upon us back. So we're going to try and be as careful as we can in dealing with this topic of reflection and appropriate action, challenges of knowledge. I think one of the reasons why we're here, it is because we all seekers of knowledge. But the kind of knowledge that we are seeking is that kind of knowledge that will be beneficial to us as individuals. But any speaker who sits here and speaks to us about knowledge, it is quite difficult because each and every one of you, you've got your own personal expectations. You've got your own personal challenges. You've got your own personal desires. And you are hoping that one of the speakers who are here will address what you are going through as a person. And sometimes you come to these kind of conferences and speakers speak and they don't speak to you. And we say, hey, what a boring conference that was. It is because of it didn't resonate with what you are going through as a person. Now, Sheikh earlier on said that this deen is a map. You know, a map doesn't take you where you're going. It just shows you how to get there. You don't need to go. You need to follow that map to arrive at your destination. You don't sit in your couch and say that I want to go to Mpumalanga and look at the map. You're not going to arrive in Mpumalanga. But it becomes even more difficult when we find knowledge that is supposed to transform us, but in turn, we want to transform knowledge. But what is knowledge after all? We tend to associate knowledge with good. But knowledge can be fatal as well. It can destroy you. Sometimes they say, what is the term? Lack of knowledge is bliss. Because if you don't know, you'll probably not go into all sorts of trouble. But you can't live your life without knowing. The Quran says that this is the blessed book which we have sent to you, O Muhammad, that they might reflect upon its verses and that those of understanding will be reminded. Now, Uncle Ismail spoke about, encouraging, and this is what, when we grow up, they say, you must read the Quran, you must read the Quran. We read the Quran. And you read the Quran. But if it doesn't resonate with you, you don't understand it, you can't apply it in your life. And if you can't apply it, it will not change you. And the reason why we keep on coming to shares and all that is because we realize our deficiencies. That this book, whether be it the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, is not resonating with us to the extent that we are able to be on a correct course that will save us. And what is even worse, I'm seeing it now that I'm growing up and my children are also growing. It's very difficult to apply my methods when I was young to my children. It doesn't resonate with them. And Imam Ali warned us that you mustn't force your children to be like you because they're living in different times. But where is that evolution? Where we are able to take the knowledge of the past to deal with the problems of the future. Because if this book, the Quran, is the book that will be with us and is supposed to help us to navigate through all these accidents of life until the day of Qiyamah, surely it's supposed to deal with the past, the present, and the future. Now, either there's something wrong with the Quran or there's something wrong with us. And obviously, we all know that the deficiency will only be with us. Because why? We have taken the Quran as the book of the past that tells past stories. We are able to take this Quran and apply it to our present circumstances, the challenges of our youth, the challenges of our communities, in order to resolve the problems of the future. I don't remember, I think it's Uncle Ismail, he likes saying that every generation will always blame the past one. That I'm in this position because of so-and-so didn't do this. Now, over the past couple of years, there's been wide acceptance of reflective practitioners' approach to decision-making and action. This view emphasizes the importance and role of reflection in our lives, has been linked to a number of associated ideas concerning experimental learning, critical thinking, critical analysis, organizational and individual learning, and nature of reflection. Because we tend to use religion as a scapegoat for all the problems that we have. But religion, what is it? It's only crowd control. Religion is crowd control. Quran has got nothing to do with religion. The Bible has got nothing to do with religion. The reason why you want to be a Muslim and then be part of this tariqah, from this tariqah you follow this imam and this sheikh, is crowd control. That's all what it is. But what does that have to do with the reflection that the Quran emphasizes and the reflection that the Prophet kept on saying to those who were around him those times, the books that we are reading today? Sheikh, year after year, tells us the very same thing. And every time he tells us, we are happy as if it's the first time that he has told us. But these things he has told us 10 years ago, some of you 20 years ago. What went wrong? How come are we not evolving as human beings and as individuals? Motsei, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, for me, I think before even I can greet you, I'm still traumatized because, you know, like when Uncle Ishmael was sitting here, it's like he was giving the last sermon. You know, like, you know, the Prophet before he left us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave the last sermon, you know. So, like, Uncle, is it the last sermon? And maybe we are not more going to see you because of it was more about death, living, you know. But nevertheless, ke a le dumedisa ka lebitso la Ramasedi wa poloko mmupo wa lehodimo le lefatshe ena sa boneng ka mahlo mpa fela bonang ka diketso tsa hae kgotsong. And I will just pick a few of those words. One, Ramasedi, it has two words. Ra is Allah, and Masedi is one of the attributes of Allah, which is Nur. So Ramasedi, it's that, you know, it has, you know, the Allah Nur, you know. So this is one of the names which we use in one of our indigenous languages. But also Mupi. Mupi, it simply means the one who designed, the one who fashioned, the one who creates. So those are some of the words which are encapsulated in this dua. And Khotso, it simply means salam. Dumelang, it means when we greet also, we use the word dumelang. And what is interesting about this word dumelang is from the word root dumela, which means to be in agreement, to be aligned. In our language, we don't have belief or faith. Because of when you look at belief and faith, sometimes we believe in things which we don't know. But in our language, when you talk about dumelo, meaning being in agreement, being aligned, it means you connect with that essence which represents who we are, all of us. And when you go to the Botswana community, whenever they meet you, when they greet you, even after 5 minutes, he will greet you again. And then you'll get frustrated. Why are you greeting me again? In response, they will tell you that madume hafeli, meaning there is no point where you stop to greet. Because of in Setswana, Greetings is more like you are checking the state of a person. We can talk now. After 5 minutes, like Uncle Ishmael was talking about the thoughts, a thought can enter your mind, then you are no more in that state. So we are also diagnosing you when we greet you in Setswana. And yeah, Tahir, when he called me, actually I was dragged actually to be here because of normally I'm behind the camera, as most of you know. But when he talks about the issues of reflection, it reminds me also with one of the words which we use in Setswana. We say radibala, meaning khobala. It means to calculate, it means to read, but also to reflect. And the absence of hudibala is khobalabala, meaning to complain. And now Tahir brought something which is quite interesting here. He was asking a question: why are we not transforming despite reading the Quran? And my conclusion, Tahir, in what we are saying is that haridibali, we don't read, we don't calculate, we don't reflect. Therefore, rabalabala. Hence, when you go into the communities of Muslims, they are always complaining about something. And complaining is the result of not reflecting, of not calculating, of not reading. So hence, for me, Tahir, it also reminds me also of a piece of, and as we celebrate, we call this year 2020 the year of Hazrat Ali, Imam Ali, Rahmatullahi alayhi salam. You have to be careful when you talk about Imam Ali. Because of when you don't add those suffix, you'll be regarded as a Shia or a Sunni. So you have to call all of them. Rahmatullahi alayhi salam, you know. and Tahir, if what you're talking about, and I want you to, if we can listen to this statement, we will really understand the reason why we find ourselves in this state, because of we've departed from the essence. And he goes like this. He says, the common man, maintain justice in administration and impose it on your own self, and seek consent of the people, for the discontentment of the masses sterilizes the contentment of the privileged few. The discontent of the few loses itself in the contentment of many. So when you look at what is happening within the country, it tells you the discontentment of the poor, it sterilizes the contentment of all of us. Because of when they go to the street, you will not be content. So therefore the question arises, why are we not creating the communities of salam? Why are we not creating communities of salam? We can't design the communities of salam if we are not in a state of salam.
Indeed, and it is said that a general model of action and reflection fundamentally in all levels involves a relationship between action and intent, outcomes in any given situation. Actions are designed and constructed to facilitate and bring about occurrence of intended outcomes and problem solving. There are two crucial problems involved within this action-outcome relationship, both of which relate directly to knowledge, reflection, and competence. Now, the Quran, on the other hand, says that, and how many generations before them we destroyed, who were greater than them in power and had explored throughout the lands. Is there any place of escape? Indeed, that is a reminder for whoever has a heart or who listens while he's present. Now, to be present, some of us, we are here, but we are not present. And many of us, we go to mosques, we go to temples, we go to churches, because it's only good thing to do. But when we get there, we are not present. Because your presence will reflect in your actions. That is why you see nowadays pastors, they scream. Imams, they scream because no one is listening. So they think by raising their voices and it will not work because you are talking to people who are not there. Sheikh said it now and said that a lot of people are already dead. Only when they die, they will wake up. This is the situation that because we are not reflecting on anything. And to reflect, it can only show in your action. Our prophet that we love, all of us, we all talk about him every time because he's the only example that we have. But he, during his days, before he was even called to prophethood, he was known to be an honest man. He was trusted by his enemies and his friends. Even when the advent of Islam came, they hated Islam, but they loved him. Why? Because he was a man of action. Whatever that he knew, he acted upon it, and it could be reflected in the community. Now, there's something that I came across, and it really leveled me seriously. It's a saying that is reported to have said by Ibn Abbas. And it says that Quran was revealed to be implemented, but the people made its recitation their aim. You know, we have more singers of the Quran in the world than those who reflect on the Quran. And we love listening to these singers. We fill halls to come and listen to Kari so and so, even if we don't understand what it means. But what is the purpose? You might as well go to a nightclub and go and listen to a nice, amapiano. There's this thing that we call amapiano nowadays, because it makes you feel good. But once you get out of there, that goodness, you leave it behind because it never resonated with you, so it will not change you. So you can't wait for the next weekend to go to another nightclub. So this is what we have turned the Quran to become, an entertainment instead of being a book of life that transforms us.
You know, Tahir, when you talk about that, I think we don't know, we shouldn't subject ourselves to traumas, you know. But having said that, I think I must add to the trauma, Tahir. There was this, and I normally read this to people so that we can start to reflect. It's by Ferdinando Galliani, who was an Italian economist. He said, "Believe me, do not fear crooks or evil people. Fear the honest person who is wrong. That person is in good faith. He wishes everyone well, and everyone has his confidence. But unfortunately, his methods fail to get out the good in humans." And lastly, another one by Friedrich Nietzsche. He said, "And whatever harm the evil may do, the harm done by the good is the most harmful harm." And because of most of us, we hardly reflect on our methods of doing things. We don't question ourselves in doing things. Why are we in the state which we find ourselves in? Why are we unhappy as people who profess the oneness of Allah? Because of when you look at Tawheed, it says to us we have to be connected to everything. Because of coming from the environment which encourages specialization, we even fragment everything. Meaning, you hear people claiming that they are spiritual when they come to the mosque. when they go to the temples, when they go to the churches. But then you ask yourself a question. When do you stop being spiritual and when do you become spiritual? Because of our existence is spiritual. But unfortunately, because of this fragmentation, we can't see connections. And that is why, Tahir, when we talk about reflection and action, because of our fragmentation, even in thinking, we can't see oneness in reflection and action. Because of they have to be moving together. Yes. We can't reflect outside action. The law, it says, you must reflect and act. But because of we try our level best to move away from this connection, hence we constantly separate things. So that's the reason why we find ourselves also in this situation. Like I normally make a, and I think it's a terrible joke to say, you see, what is your perception about Rasooli Center? What is your perception about Rasooli Center? Rasooli Center is not the structure. Rasooli Center is an idea. It's an ideal. When we leave this place, what is it when there isn't this connection? Because for me, all of us who've been part of this community, wherever we go, we are this Azawi. And I even went to the extent of telling people that even in a strip club, I will manifest some of the ideas because of there are people who are willing to listen to you in that space, who are seeking. And wherever we are carrying this software, which we call Rasooli Center. And we cannot really reduce it to a structure. Yesterday I was sitting with the principal of a school. It was a more of a coaching session. And when I was sitting there, Tahir, and because we were communicating with Tahir yesterday, and I could see myself sitting with her in this room. Because of all of us, we've been captured by this idea, Rasooli Center. So we have just to manifest wherever we are.
Now, in my parting shot, obviously, in reflecting and acting, it's got its own consequences as well. Not all of us can be able to step on other people's toes and they still laugh. Only Sheikh has got that ability. So we tend to be cautious when we talk to one another. So we'll bend the truth there and there, tell white lie there and there as if white lie is better than black one. We'll do all these things in order to navigate ourselves so that we don't upset the next person. But if truth upsets you, it's better than a lie that makes you feel good. And we need to reach a point that we would say to one another that we no longer have time. The only time that we have is the one that we have now. I was saying to my wife that every time Sheikh asks somebody in his gathering, please recite something, everybody recites Al-Asr for some reason. Because I believe that there's a message in that. Because the only thing that has been apportioned to all of us equally in this life is time. But how much time do we have? None of us knows. So do we think that we have time to waste in trying to massage one another? We don't have it. And if you have that belief in your heart that you can still navigate yourself and try and massage the truth when you can tell it and save somebody else, you have wasted your own time. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, so, yeah, like the parting shot. And I think again, I will go to the commander of the faithful, Hazrat Imam Rahmatullahi alayhi salam. He said, whoever places himself as a leader of the people should commence with educating his own self before educating others. And his teaching should be by his own conduct before teaching by the tongue. The person who teaches and instructs his own self is more entitled to esteem than he who teaches and instructs others. So now it tells you that we should go back, the journey should be the journey to the self, like the Sheikh normally says. And also Tahir as an emphasis in terms of problem solving. You can only solve a problem when you go back to yourself. When we have conflicts, we should go back to ourselves. And last week, I got trees from Al-Ghazali, like Angel, Ishmael. KK gave me 16 trees. And I took those 40 trees. I gave those trees to 40 principals of schools so that they can plant them with their teams. And on that day, I read this piece for them about leadership because of their leaders. So what Tahir is saying to us in terms of his reflection and action, his emphasis as a theme also of the conference, is that we have to take this message to the marketplace because we are failing it. So let us give it to other people so that they can replace us. Let us give it to other people. Probably they will replace us. Probably they will create a better society if we give it to them. And we can't give them with this, kitabs, which you can see there was no thinking, So we need kitabs which will resonate with the people. And on that note, I want to say to all of you, Nyatogoza. And to Uktogoza, it means to that I'm excited. And whenever you meet some of our traditional healers within the country, even a person who walks without shoes, when they greet you, they say Togozana. Be happy. And then you ask yourself a question, I thought I'm happy because of what I have. Here is a person who's walking without shoes and he says to me, Togozana. So on that note, I say, let us be happy, let us be grateful. Alhamdulillah.
Fair to both of you for a very insightful presentation. So, Sello, you were the last. I'll start with you first. I'm very pleased you weren't behind the camera today. That you were here in front sharing with us. And as you both were talking, you flowed seamlessly into each other's contribution, almost as if it was choreographed, beautifully choreographed. Thanks very much for that. As a youngster growing up in a part of South Africa where lots of people spoke Setswana, I was very happy to hear about the language and the fact that those very pithy words, small words, reflected so much in terms of the attributes of Allah and the indigenization of those attributes. Absolutely wonderful, and thanks for sharing it with us. Tahir, you rightfully lamented lack of reflection, transformation. What is the purpose of having the knowledge there if in fact it doesn't help to transform you, that you can't reflect on it? It becomes worthless. So thank you both for drawing our attention to that, reminding us of that, and putting those rhetorical questions to us. So the whole discussion flowed beautifully with the theme of the conference, and thank you for all the time that you put into that. We've got a few minutes for question time before we break for tea. Anybody?
Thank you both for a very illuminating talk. And I just want to actually make a comment. A lot of questions. The kind of talk that the two of you gave is very much relating to South Africa. And you contextualized your talk. It is related to us as all people in this country, and you're actually speaking from your hearts. Of, in a way, what we all can do together in relationship to, in a sense, giving the message of Islam in a very moral, ethical way, which is a responsibility, duty for each of us in our own transformation. So in other words, we're only fooling ourselves in what you are saying, in order to say that we should not be fooling ourselves. We should be real in what we're trying to achieve. And you are really asking those questions and how we can do them. And you've also given some solutions, so thank you very much for doing what you're doing, because many of us sometimes, you know, we live in our own world and our own zone of some notion of illusion and disillusion that you don't realize that we actually have responsibility to our neighbors, to our people, in the fact that we live in this country and we cannot think for any moment in what you have said that responsibility belongs to us in how we believe in Allah and how we expect to be close to Allah. And you cannot fool the Almighty. In fact, you cannot even fool yourself, your higher self, and you're only doing that. So we have a great responsibility. So thank you for reminding us for our responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Abu. Any other contributions, questions? Fatima, you had your hand up? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to ask something that's been on my mind for quite some time, and it was very exciting to hear this dance of hearts
Take the mic a bit closer.
South Africa, in my opinion, is probably the one place on the southernmost tip of this continent where people actually do take their skins off and you see their true colors. Well, our northerner friends might say that's not the case. People don't smile when they walk down the streets. They don't acknowledge. People's always too busy. So I guess we have this beautiful concept of Ubuntu and our vibrance of our languages. So this thing that I'm concerned about is that conceptually the Rasooli Center provides ample space for intellectual discussions, but the transcendence, as Comrade Sello mentioned, is really the key to opening the other hearts. And this muhabbat that we need to hate is about inequality. The inequality that is stirring in the platforms. And we're not allowed to talk about political issues because as Sufis it's politically incorrect. However, what I want to ask you is, what in your DNA, in your conversation, there's something, a dance going on between the two of you. Do you think in that rhythm, can we share right here, right now, to start awakening this idea of muhabbat, but beyond muhabbat, a concept of how we look at development, not only in the public sector, in its transformation, in its exercising its past, but also as civil society, as communities, not only locally but globally. There's something you're doing, but I want to ask you to think about coining it in a sentence. You know, there is something going on here between the two of us. It's magical. I'm saying this because I think I've put it out as well.
Thank you. Maybe we'll go to Fatima and answer after that.
I was just very deeply moved and touched by the introduction, very brief introduction to the depth of learning and of teaching offered by Setswana. You know, it's the first time that I've actually appreciated that, much like Arabic, the language offers a depth which not many languages offer. So I would really like it, I'm sure many others would, if we could have more of this.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I think there's been such a beautiful, heart-stirring that's, and it's a long time coming really. We've grown up in this country without that sort of heart connection at a level which I think can be explored much more deeply. We hope to give a brief introduction to Beit Andalus, which is what we hope will be the Zawiya, established at Sheikh Fadlullah's home in White River. And it would be wonderful if both Sello and Tahir could join us and host a gathering at some point, just for a deeper exploration into the great offerings, learning from indigenous language and culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Sello, just before the tea break last week.
Yeah, I don't know, like when you ask about the dance, like there are a lot of dance, kwaito, jazz, and like, but yeah, nevertheless. And look, I think we've been in exile as black Muslims, and we're coming home. And I will tell you why. You see, for us, Islam has always been foreign. I vividly remember when I went for Hajj, and I sat there, I look at Muslims, I said, like, everyone was reciting, there was this pushing and pulling, and I was shocked, because of when people go to Hajj and when they come back, they tell us the story of bliss. When I was there, I transformed, and when I was around the Kaaba, there was nothing. When I came back and I found like, what is that which people are feeling when they go there? And I vividly remember talking to one old man, and I told him the story. He said, Sello, between me and you, I didn't feel it. And for one good reason, the language barrier and being othering, the othering also. Look, Islam is clear that it is for mankind. And Allah is clear also that I've created you from a single pair of male and female, evolved you in different tribes and nations so that you may know each other but not to discriminate amongst one another. And I think the understanding thereof helped me to go back home and to say, I'm also a human being here. Setswana will be one of the languages which is spoken in Jannat. Not only. But also, look, I think there is one person who sometimes, I don't think, and it's natural also, for Uncle Ishmael, he played an important role in this country by creating platforms. And probably is not aware that he has played an important role for us to understand Islam intellectually, politically, spiritually, and otherwise. You remember the conferences, the crescent conferences, which used to take place. They changed our lives. They made us better human beings. Not Muslims per se, but better human beings. And we are not aware of the impact of those conferences, what they've done, how we've grown, how we've become better people. And I also worked for Crescent International doing marketing there. I used to read those books. They changed my life. I don't want to lie. And no Soto, no Muslim, no Hindu, no Buddhist will claim that they made me. And that's where it starts. When you learn from everyone and appreciate everyone, then you start to realize that the DNA of this message, it permeates in all sectors of our society. And then you are asking about the role, what we can do. And I think I can safely say we've started and we are doing it. There are principals, there are teachers today whom their life were changed by this universality of message because of If the statement says, the Quran says, don't be like that donkey with books, then you must go to the marketplace. Because of the Quran, is a tool. It must just do its work. It has to work. And the people who can make it work is none other than all of us in this room. And we have it. Wherever you are, just do it. Plug and do it. And we are doing it on a daily basis. Unfortunately, we are not, because of there is a lot of negative, we don't celebrate the positive which is taking place around us. And it speaks to what Angel was talking about. If Angel did something good, let us tell him. Why are we not telling him? And we celebrate wrong. Because of every day we talk about wrong things, wrong people. But what about the good people who are lonely out there? They want someone to give them that. And you're asking about this dance. I think the dance is the result of accepting who we are. I think we've accepted who we are. And we interact on the basis of, I know who I am, and he knows who he is. And we understand our purpose. And sometimes he does terrible things. Then you ask yourself, why do you say these things, Tahir? Are you not afraid? And sometimes I say certain things and then I regret later and I say, but I had to say it. But we live with those realities. And and he just phoned me and said, we didn't phone. We met in one of the mosques and he said, you are going to do it. It was an instruction and I submitted. He didn't ask, he told me, then I submitted. And that is why we are here. We never sat down and actually we were supposed to meet we couldn't meet. Even yesterday we were supposed to meet here and he decided not to come. But that's the dance. Just do it.
We think you are telling a white lie. You did meet. You rehearsed the whole thing. It was too perfect not to be rehearsed. Tahir, from you. Last few words.
Shukran. I think the important thing here is that all of us, we have something to contribute. It doesn't matter who you are. And like it has been said, this particular environment, Rasooli, has really given us confidence in our deed. Some of us, we became Muslim and that Islam was not really fulfilling. Then we met Sheikh. Sheikh stopped us being Muslims and he made us into human beings. And we understand now how is it to be a human being. When I look at you, I don't care about your color, your creed, your religion, or what. I just see a human being who has something that I have, a soul, and that soul is from Allah. That's all that I see. So that has given us courage to be able, because when I started giving some talks here, Sheikh one day said to me, you must give a talk in Rasooli. I was shivering. I said, but what am I going to say? I mean, I've never, ever been to a Darul Uloom or a madrasa. What am I going to say? And he said, you must, that now I can't say no to Sheikh. And he said it in front of other people. They heard him. And people like Almas were on my neck and said that, but you must come and give these talks. But then I realized that it doesn't matter who you are. There's a lot of people who are schooled in deen, but they have no knowledge. Yes. That is why they can't transform society. And that transformation and that knowledge, you can only come if Allah wills it to come. So our role and our purpose is just to share the little that we have. We'll make mistakes along the way, but we don't stop trying because we are afraid to make those mistakes. So we'll keep on doing our best. And wallahi, we didn't meet. And the thing is, I'm comfortable with him because I understand. I know what the kind of a person he is. I sort of can anticipate him, and it's easy for me to go in because I know his thought process. And it's easy because I know that whatever that I say, even if it doesn't resonate that comfortable with him, he will still accept me for who I am. So I'm in sync with who I am around him, and hopefully he is with me, or maybe he's pretending, I don't know. But he's there. So we try our level best to just contribute. This is just a mere contribution out of our own learnings from some of you who are sitting here and from the chef. That's all. We are repeating exactly the same things that we've been taught.